and are just some of the words that you may hear in today's podcast. Enjoy!
Hello and welcome to the Perfect Information Podcast.
A board game podcast of peripatetic self-indulgence with him,
Yorgos Panagiotidis.
And the shambling personification of hanger,
Ben Maddox.
So, here we are, Georgios.
We are here, we are sitting. I'm sitting at least, and I'm having a nice cup of bean coffee.
Seize the bean, Georgios.
I'm seizing the bean, drinking this coffee. This is a free advertisement, by the way. You can actually pay us for advertisement as well, me at least. I'll advertise anything.
This is great. We've spoken for the last minute, and we haven't actually said anything about where we are and
why it's so loud.
Why it's so loud. Well, we are here at the 2017 Berlin Brettspielcon.
Yes.
And for all of those unsophisticated people who don't spreche the Deutsch.
Berlin is the capital of Germany.
Brettspiel means...
It's also the capital of Germany.
Making love to ladies.
Yes, in a very German way, by sitting at a table and arguing and pushing cubes around. This is actually, I do think in some parts of Germany it is considered foreplay.
So this is a convention hosted by, I guess, the premier German language YouTubers, Hunter and Kron.
Hunter and Kron, yes.
And it's a convention on 3 floors, and it's actually very...
4, actually. If we count up, it's 4 floors.
Pedantry is not welcome, Georgios.
I'm surrounded by board gamers. If I am not a pedant, they'll kick me out.
That's true. That's true. I've got it tattooed across my forehead.
Yes.
So give us your first impressions, Georgie.
It is livelier than last year. It's spacier than last year. And as in, more people are spaced out. See, double, it doesn't matter. Anyway, yeah, it's my first impression is it's a bit loud. People are playing. People are having, as far as I can tell, a good time. I'm not seeing much of a central hub so far, but other than that, it's promising.
There's been some debate going on about this convention, right? In that there's very small area for open gaming.
Right.
And I think my opinion thus far is that the busier it gets, the more of a problem that will be.
That's likely, yeah.
And this is very much in the style of a German convention, it seems to me, in that it's a lot of publisher stands, it's a lot of demoing, very much in the style of Essen, and it doesn't have the events or the sort of community developing that an American convention or the UK Games Expo has, right?
That might actually be true. I haven't actually looked around. I know there's a hotel right across from here. I don't know how many of the visitors from outside of Berlin are staying there. If there is something like a post-convention gaming area, it might be found there. It might be found in areas around this place, but you're right, there's no central communal area as far as I can tell, which interestingly enough makes me kind of miss Essen, because Essen also has no explicit communal area, but it's so full of gamers that you can't help but run into someone and start chatting. And so far, because of the density or the lack of density of visitors, most of them are just small cliques sitting at tables and playing games, and not, complete strangers running into each other and starting a conversation after the game.
That's right. So, I'm hoping that the potential for meeting new people and mixing will be increased, but living in Berlin, coming from Berlin, it's very easy just to hang around with people you know, right?
Yeah, that is true. I'm not really interested in meeting new people. I already have too many people at my place, so some of them gag. But it should be interesting. Actually, I'm quite optimistic that things are going to turn around. The weather is fantastic outside. I do kind of expect most of them to show up after 12, unlike Essen, where people are sort of running down the doors the moment they open. I think a few hours from now we'll probably have a better feel for the location. And maybe tonight, when we wrap up our impressions, maybe our opinions will have changed.
I don't have to rap, do I?
Yes, you do. I'll do the beatboxing, you do the rapping.
Right on.
I'm standing right here at BerlinCon with Matthias from Frosted Games, the head of Frosted Games, and he has given me a juicy little tidbit about what's to come the rest of the year or beginning of next year. So, Matthias, what's the big piece?
The big piece is that I will release another 2-player card-driven game. It's called High Treason. I came to the Victory Point game and said, that's an awesome game. I need it for the German market. And said, oh, interesting. And I told them, yeah, but I would like to produce it in the following way. And they said, you know what? Then we come with there and we produce together and we make some kind of deluxe version with the German and English. And we produce it end of year, beginning of next year. So by Nuremberg, you should have it in your hands.
Excellent. So that's a deluxe version of High Treason, the trial of, what's the name? Louis Riel. 2-player game coming in German for our German listeners and in English for our non-German listeners, probably at the beginning of next year.
Yes, you're welcome.
We've just played one of the Spiel des Jahres nominees.
Yes, we played them together for a change. Kingdomino, the giant version, as big as other people's hands.
So give us your impressions then.
It hasn't changed much really. It's a neat, clever little game, a bit slight, but not necessarily silly or dumb. It's a nice way to pass the time. It doesn't tax you overtly, but it could have used a little bit more meat.
Well, I think this is absolutely why people deride the Spiel des Jahres and at the same time compliment the Spiel des Jahres.
Right.
Game of the Year, it should not win Game of the Year. It's a filler.
Right, yeah.
It's engaging. It's good. It's got nice ideas and it's very easy and relaxing to play. But fundamentally, it's a filler. And I understand why people get a bit narky about the Spiel des Jahres. Because when you're nominating something like this, which is essentially dominoes with the maths removed from it,
right,
that it makes people angry. I enjoy playing it, but it's not something that's going to stick in my head. It's not like, the best Spiel des Jahres that I've played is Camelot.
Right,
because it feels like a proper game. It's welcoming and easy to play, but it has great decisions and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
This is fine, but nothing more, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I think the accessibility is its big selling point. Unfortunately, once you access the game, it's just okay. It's fine.
Right.
You're not going to regret owning it, playing it, but I don't think you're going to be, eager to play it again and again and again, unless you have new players over.
I played Century Spice Road the other day, right?
Right.
And we were talking about the other day off mic, because sometimes we do.
For some reason.
We were talking off mic about how they had rushed production to get it onto the German market to make it eligible for the awards, right? I don't see what Kingdomino offers that Century Spice Road doesn't. I don't see why. Century Spice Road seems to be designed specifically for the Spiel des Jahres, right? And I enjoyed that, and it's about the same length, but I enjoyed it a lot more. I found the decisions a lot meatier. Kingdomino is fine, but so slight as to be candy floss, right?
Yeah, I think I would give Kingdomino, I would prefer Kingdomino to Century Spice Road because I thought Century seemed a little dull for some reason. I can't quite put my finger on it. I haven't played it often enough.
Well,
but it seemed anemic was the word I think you used, and I think that's fitting.
Spiel des Jahres design with malice aforethought, right?
Yeah.
I compared it to a Ron Howard movie.
Yeah.
In that it's fine, it's put together nicely, it's enjoyable, but fundamentally empty. And I think Kingdomino is also that.
I don't know. I think there's something enjoyable like Kingdomino that I don't get from Century, but it would probably take another hour to figure out the difference between those, in my opinion. But yeah, that's a wrap up for Kingdomino. We're going to hunt down the rest of the games and see whether we hate them as much as we hate this one. So Ben, you're full of sweat, full of dirt, and a bit of malaria.
I also played The Journey to El Dorado.
All right.
From Rainer Knizia.
Rainer Knizia, all right. One of the nominees for Spiel des Jahres. So what was your impression?
I thought it was fantastic. It's a light deck builder that's very simple, very engaging, very quick to learn, but there's some meat to it. As opposed to Kingdomino, which is very light and accessible and fun, this has a bit of meat, helps you think, and you can... The race element is where it really lives, right?
Right, yeah.
Because it's not just buying cards to make an efficient deck, it's buying cards for another task. And a lot of people are speaking at the moment about deck building being a facet of a game rather than the whole game, right?
Right.
And El Dorado does this really well. It's light. I can't imagine that I would play it a lot. But of the 2 Spiel des Jahres games I've played so far, this is clearly superior. It has so much more to think about.
Oh yeah, no, that's been my experience as well. The game is meaty, it's great, it's a classic Knizia in that it's very accessible despite having a lot of meat under the hood. There's a lot to think about, I agree. Ultimately though, the weird thing about this game to me is that it feels old. It does not feel fresh, it doesn't feel unique, it feels slightly unique. And that's basically what was my argument when the game was nominated, is that it feels like a throwback. It feels like throwing an established and well-regarded designer a bone for returning to the field with a good game as opposed to small efforts. Yeah, it's a fantastic game. I think it's slightly overpriced, but I think it's worth owning for many people, especially if you're playing with, let's say, casual players, because there's meat to it, there's something you can really sink your teeth into.
And it doesn't last super long either.
Exactly. And one of the funniest things to me is still that the blocking element, that you can't really move past another player if they're stuck right in front of you, introduces this great bit of tension and release, and a lot of cursing at the table, but in a generally a very fun way.
Yeah, it's tense, it's fun. We had a really good ending in which I was going to win, and then everyone blocked me, and I couldn't win because everyone hates me, and that was really cool.
It's a good way to end by hating Ben. That is true.
Exactly, but I have this bar with Spiel des Jahres games, right, and it's the Camel Up one, because when I played Camel Up, I thought this is fucking fantastic. This is a game I still play now with gamers and non-gamers, and it's always great, it's always funny, it's super exciting. The expansion just improved it and made it slightly more thinkier, slightly more gamey. This, while I enjoy it a lot, is not one I would own because it's not as good as that.
Yeah,
it's very well designed, it's very well put together, feels a little soulless though.
Yeah, possibly. I think I'm also not going to pick up a copy just because I have a bunch of games and it doesn't really carve out its own niche. It's good, some say it might even be great, but there are just too many games that you can sort of pick to give you a vaguely similar feel.
I like it a lot, I don't love it though.
Yeah, exactly. So we just finished another fantastic round of board gaming. We played the Game of Thrones based board game, I believe it's called the Iron Throne. Ben, you look happy and excited due to all that incest that didn't happen. What was your impression?
Right, so I played this game, right? Now imagine you go to a nice cafe and you're really gasping for something to eat, and you have a look through and you go, oh, that looks good, and then you order it and they bring you back 2 pieces of bread buttered with dog shit.
I think that's a very vivid and evocative description. I'm not quite sure about the 2 pieces of bread, to be honest.
Yeah, there's no nutritional value in this game whatsoever.
Really.
So I don't like Cosmic Encounter.
Yes, but he has good sides as well.
And I thought maybe you said before we started playing that this is a more tactical version, less sort of airy-fairy. And I thought, I might enjoy this a bit more. It's a bit more constrained, a bit more of a handle on what to do. But what it seemed to do was just vacuum any semblance of fun out of it. And it was just a promenade. I mean, really, if you weren't involved, if you weren't being attacked or you weren't attacking, it was just dull.
Yeah.
Supporting didn't really give you anything. Well, it kind of did, but it wasn't. You didn't win anything interesting, and it was just a promenade to the end, and it was dull and not just forgetful, but crap too.
Well, yeah, I think the biggest problem is, as you said, the fun has been moved out of it. The lightness, the sudden surprises, they were kind of replaced with, well, gut punches mostly. You just get beat down a lot, or you get to beat down a lot on people, but it's never like, ooh, a funny surprise happened, like a well-built-up plan sort of upended because somebody drew the nice little card. It was just, things were just getting continuously worse and less fun. And you constantly felt boxed in, and achievements didn't feel like achievements, just, luck. And there was no satisfaction in winning anything, and there was no calmness in losing anything. It was just a waste of time, really.
You've got to give a fuck if something good happens. You've got to give a fuck if something bad happens. The only thing I gave a fuck about is when was it going to end?
Yeah.
Anytime I won a battle, I didn't care. Anytime I lost a battle, I didn't care. One of my people died, I didn't care. Fundamentally, this is a game I just don't care about.
Yeah, that's an issue. So it's sort of number crunching, a lot of knowing the cards. I guess that's what's supposed to be tactical about it, the fact that you need to know a lot about the game and sort of think about what are the options now, what's the best tactical move to make. This might not have been the best place to play this game, but I don't see myself sitting down to play it again just because the experience was so miserable, which I guess is thematic, which is what I'm trying to say is Game of Thrones isn't really that great.
I know Ignacy wants everyone to play games twice before they comment about them. I played this turd once, and I'm not playing it again.
Yeah, it's probably not imbalanced, but it's no fun. So we've just finished the third of the Spiel des Jahres nominees. I had a good time. What about you, Ben?
I think we have a winner, don't we, Georgios?
I think we do.
I played now all three of the Spiel des Jahres. I thought Kingdomino was fine, but a little vacuous. I thought that Run to El Dorado, Quest for El Dorado, Sex at El Dorado, whatever it's called.
Oh, it should be called Sex at El Dorado, I think.
Was really well put together, entertaining and fun, but I didn't love it.
Right.
And then I played Magic Maze.
Right.
And I'm not one of those people who fetishizes innovation, right?
Yeah.
I think you can just innovate for the sake of it and it can end up just being a big mess. But Magic Maze is like nothing I've really played before, but coupled with an incredible game experience.
Right, yeah.
And if you're talking about accessibility, if you're talking about Spiel des Jahres being something that everyone could play, we just played this with 2 8-year-old girls.
Yeah.
And the game experience didn't suffer for it. We were all able to play on an equal footing, I mean, especially me because I'm a moron.
Yeah, you really had to reach up to reach 8-level girls.
God, I was really dreadful. And and the game was still great. This could be... If you take their mission statement is accessibility and games that everyone could enjoy, this might be the most Spiel des Jahres nomination I've played since Camel Up.
Yeah, you mentioned
that's a real compliment.
Yeah, you mentioned that Camel Up is your high watermark for Spiel des Jahres games. I can see why. I still think, I mean, it's not just accessibility that matters to the jury, I believe. It's also the idea of promoting gaming and sort of celebrating gaming as it stands now. I think Magic Maze does that. It shows that board games are innovative, they are fun, they are light, they don't get bogged down with rules, they don't get too testy because they're being mean to one another. It's a co-op experience that thrives on being lively due to the time limit, but it also there's this shared experience of frustration because people want something from me, I don't know what, and every time I've played it, the reaction has always been laughter and not, anger. And this is something I really appreciate about the game.
And you said, right, that Come All Over El Dorado was felt old-fashioned.
Right.
And I didn't really understand it until I just played Magic Maze now, and now I see exactly what you mean.
Right.
Bestiality at El Dorado feels like one of those games. It feels like someone's gone, I'll take a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B, and I'll put them together, and it's fine, but
it's very competently done. I adore Knizia, and this is a very good Knizia game.
It's competent but unoriginal, whereas Magic Maze is competent and breathtakingly original.
I agree.
Spiel des Jahres often leaves me underwhelmed. 2/3 of the Spiel des Jahres nominees this year have left me underwhelmed. This one has whelmed me as possible it is to be whelmed.
Yes, quite whelmed. So we'll know in a short amount of time which one is going to be the winner, right?
Frankly, we're going to the ceremony, and if Magic Maze doesn't win, I'm burning the fucking hotel down.
Right, you heard it here first. Admission of intent to burn the house down.
Memoarrr.
It's not quite the correct pronunciation. It's a pirate game.
Memoarrr.
Excellent. Now that's the game we played.
I can't do a Somali accent.
All right, yeah.
Because that's where all the modern piracy is.
Yes, very topical
Somalia.
and absolutely not offensive.
Well, it's not untrue, is it?
Yes, but
they're just not making jolly knockabout memory games based upon Somali pirates, are they?
Offensiveness has nothing to do with truthfulness.
Anyway, so we just played Memoarrr, which is the second game from Edition Spielwiese, who published Cottage Garden last year, which was a big hit.
Right.
And this one I was really trepidatious about. They asked me this morning when I first arrived if I wanted to play it, and I made some nice pleasant excuse and walked away because it's a memory game and they're not my things. But you add a couple of little rules and suddenly the game is hilarious. It's a great knockabout 15-minute game. And I think today the theme has been light, accessible games, and this one again is one, and it works really well. When it gets to where you are, buy Memoarrr. It's super cheap and it's really good fun.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think I've just picked up a copy for myself and for my gaming group and also for my son. And it's fun. It's colourful. It's easy to get. It's this idea that seems to be coming back in style to just take familiar, very, very, let's say, established games like Memory, like say, or like War, or any other very, very simple games, and just tweak them a little bit to make them fresh again. Like this game, Memoarrr, obviously riffs on Memory. Cosmic Encounter, as everyone hopefully knows, riffs on War. And there's so many other, like, what was it? Augustus, The Rise of Augustus.
Riffs on Bingo, right?
Riffs on Bingo. There's these simple games that are easy to get because most people are somewhat familiar with them, and then you tweak them a little and all of a sudden it's fun. Formula D is another one. Just, roll and move, tweak it a little and all of a sudden it's fun.
And the point is, with this refined hobby board gaming scene in which, everyone is looking for innovation and everyone is looking for something that is unique, there can be a bit of snobbery, and you can overlook something that utilizes something old, something traditional. But when they manage to do that successfully, it's so refreshing. And you just think, wow, they've managed to pull something off that is genuinely a bit facile and crap, but they've made this crap mechanic good.
Yeah, pretty much so. So, this is last day for me of the 2-day Berlin convention. You're coming back tomorrow
I
for
am.
the debauchery and the orgies.
It's the orgy day tomorrow.
It's the orgy day, yeah. I mean, you're obligated to include an orgy day in Berlin by law.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You
Especially in
stop it.
Kreuzberg, you have to.
Yeah, that's true. So, what are your general impressions of the Berlin Con then?
Okay, 2 criticisms.
Right.
I have 2 criticisms. One, and people claim that it's all about costs of tickets and things like this. It's totally, almost dominated completely by publishers. There's not a big open gaming area.
True. We did find a couple of them, but you're right, yeah, they don't dominate anything. Which
is, for me, a little frustrating, as this evening, particularly, I'd like to play some games. But maybe the tables will clear off. The venue is very Berlin, bare, brick, very industrial, sort of a bit shabby and very chic, cool looking.
Yeah.
There's no amenities here.
That's true. Yeah.
There's one food truck. It takes an hour to get any food. So that's a little bit of a downer. But the atmosphere is nice. The people seem cool. And there's lots of opportunities. And because this con is placed on the weekend before the Spiel des Jahres, there's the opportunity to play all the Spiel des Jahres games.
Which we did,
which is really nice. And I like that as an aspect. On the whole, I think the con's great. There are better ones in the world, and I think this needs tweaking. It's in its 3rd year now, and it needs tweaking to have that community feel. But fundamentally, I think it's a great con.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think, like you said, it's the 3rd year. It's still a bit scrappy. I mean, they're still building things up. They're still learning the ropes. I mean, these aren't professional event organizers or anything. These are 2 guys who started a YouTube channel who had a big enough following and big enough support from the community in Germany to get the funds, to get this ball rolling. There's still kinks to iron out, that's true. But on the whole, I think it's getting there. I think it's definitely better than last year, even though I quite liked last year's. This time it's just a bit... it feels bigger, it feels a bit more professional. It still needs that little push over the edge that really makes you feel the community aspect of it. And maybe it's partly because we are not actually part of the YouTube community following that channel.
That's true.
We don't watch those channels because we are horrible, horrible snobs, and because, yeah, that's
But they kind of don't organise events. There's no sort of organised play thing. There's a couple of competitions, but
yeah.
It seems even less... There seems to be less uptake than last year because there was one room last year where all the tournaments happened. So it was very easy to sort of get into that tournament field. That's not happening. They have no sort of evening events. It would be great if they had signed up role-playing sessions, people running particular games, that sort of community stuff. And that thing that cons do that I'm really shocked that this one doesn't do, which is, a flag on the table saying players wanted, a flag on the table saying teacher wanted.
Yeah.
So you can sit down with a game. And I think the most egregious omission that they had last year and they don't have this year is they haven't got a library.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That is true.
And so we were trying to get a game of Magic Maze, and it just took ages. We had to stand and wait for everybody. Whereas they had a library with a couple of copies of Magic Maze, we could have just checked it out, played it, right?
That's right,
And so they had a library last year, and they don't have one this year. That needs to be fixed.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think, like I said, there's some weaknesses, there's some strengths. I think the con is still growing. I think it's going to be better next year. I assume there'll be feedback, and they'll take feedback into account and make it better. The venue, it's very easy to reach, which is great for a big city like Berlin. The amenities, as you say, they need some brushing up. That is true as well. There's just not enough here to easily get something to eat or to drink. But on the whole, I think I have had a good time.
Yeah,
and,
me too.
If you are in Berlin next year around this time, I think BerlinCon is worth checking out.
Is that your name on the list? Well, get in there then. Get to the bar and get buckled. Welcome to the guild.
Oof, Georgios.
Yes, been.
I tell you, I am livid, Georgios. I'm lividly angry.
Why?
I walked down the street today.
Right.
Every 50 metres. Firstly, I'm livid using metres as a term of measurement.
But it's sensible.
It should be kwanlats.
All right, yeah, I see your point. Yeah.
Which is the traditional British term. Now we've Brexited. So every 7 1/3 kwanlats, I saw a bloody Costas and the Bazookies poster. It's like they've metastasized.
Actually, we have a very, very vibrant fan culture.
That's clearly it.
Yeah. We actually just printed 4 of those posters.
Right.
Somebody stole one and made copies.
So you played a gig last week with Costas and the Bazookies, right?
Right, yeah, we did.
How many people turned up?
A few.
Because when I played Retention and Release, right, we play regularly.
Oh, that's great.
And we had like 5 people was our biggest, right? Was it more than that?
No. It was 4.
Sorry, what?
4.
Oh, that's all right. So you're coughing. You got a terrible cough. You got a cold there.
Yes, it's very cold. It was very, very roomy. We did an open air gig.
Because I noticed today you pulled up. Now you're wearing a entire baby seal ensemble sock.
Yes, I am.
And you pulled up in a stretch limo today.
Yes, we rented it for the entire weekend, and now we still had some hours left.
If you're only getting 4 people at a gig, how can you afford a stretch limo? And what was all those paparazzos doing there with their cameras?
No, we counted those as visitors and not extra. So, yeah. No, it wasn't...
So it's not going very well then, Costas and Bazooka. It's probably going to split up soon.
Yes, soon. 14 years is pretty soon.
What songs have you got? Have you got any songs? Costas and the Bazooki numbers that... I assume you've written some.
Well, interestingly enough, they insist on writing the songs.
I Bala Like Her You? Is that one of them?
No. That's actually the side project which they have, which is like, we're Russian, buy record.
Don't moo on my soccer?
No, that was deemed too racist. Not by me though. I thought it was brilliant.
I met a girl called Retsina.
That's one of my favorites actually.
Go on then, give us a couple of bars.
Well, actually, I just sing the Greek bit.
Oh, go on then.
Right.
Go on then.
Τη λένε Ρετσίνα, πέρασα και ήπια και τώρα τη βρήκα με κάποιον άλλον και τώρα πίνω Ρετσίνα.
I don't see how it's catchy, to be honest.
No.
I suppose when they put that scooter-esque techno beat underneath it, then it really picks up the...
We did that for the remix, yeah, it was good fun.
Retsina.
No. Actually, if you do a scooter-esque beat under it, you need to scream the lyrics. You obviously don't know anything about scooter.
But anyway, just before we go on to the question.
Yes, please.
Janine has been very furtive recently.
Right.
She's been furtive. It's like I came in the other day.
Oh, excellent.
And she was in the living room doing hot yoga.
How is it different from normal yoga?
You turn the heating well up.
Oh, there you go. Right.
And she was doing some hot yoga, or some whatever she does, ladies things in the living room.
Living?
Also that.
Oh, fair enough.
And then she sort of surreptitiously stuck something behind her back or something.
Okay.
She's hiding something from me, Georgios.
Yes.
And I don't think it was a Costas and the Bazookas CD, because she was playing that blatantly. Ella Racina, ooh, look at Racina, in the living room.
It's a good song.
Well, she loves it to do hot yoga to. Personally, I think it's fucking disgusting. I think it's disgusting that you've taken my creative project on your own and now you're leading the band.
I'm more of a figurehead, really.
But I'm concerned anyway. It's her surreptitiousness.
I don't think you should be concerned. I think, have you checked the remote control?
She won't allow me to have the remote control, Georgios.
Well, have you checked maybe the smoke detectors?
She won't allow me near the smoke detectors, Georgios.
Do you have a lot of batteries lying around?
She won't let me near the batteries, Georgios.
Right. Shall we move on?
So what was the guild question this week?
The guild question was, what genres are underrepresented and which new genres are needed?
Well, let's go to the kindest of all fortresses, the one where you get free flowers and a monkey to play with whenever you're there. Isaac Shalev, Ender 7.
Amazing. I have no idea what you're referencing there.
It's the kind fortress. So when you go into the fortress, right?
But why the monkey?
You get some flowers because monkeys are fucking cool. So it's because the fortress is that kind. They're like, oh, what would you like? Play with a monkey? Oh, yeah, that'd be amazing. All right, here's a monkey. Have a monkey to play with.
So what you're saying
play
is
with a monkey.
So what you're saying is Isaac is involved into any monkey business.
He's into all the monkey business. Okay. All right, so I'm going to read out the genres Isaac has suggested, and I want you to come up with a title for the game. All right?
Excellent. Great.
Yeah?
That's going to work well.
So, he says, and I'll do an impression. I like to see more in these genres. That's my Isaac Shalev impression. That's how he sounds. We've spoken.
That's literally how he sounds. Yeah, I know. Remember that.
So I'll do it again. I like to see more in these genres.
Now he moves across the Atlantic, right?
That's how he sounds. Isaac Shalev.
Yeah.
You've spoken with him, Georgios.
I've listened to him as well. Yeah.
So, first contact with aliens. What's that going to be called?
It's going to be called Whoomp. There it is.
That's a great title for a game, actually. Is it because Whoomp is a tribe of aliens?
No, it's onomatopoeic. It's about sounding like it is. Whoomp. It's a big
when the saucer comes down. All right, excellent. So, modern industries and businesses, ISPs, tech startups, cell phone networks. I'll pull my face off the barrel of this shotgun to listen to your answer, Georgios.
I would call it advanced slavery.
That's a good title.
And it's absolutely not offensive to anyone.
Advanced slavery life, and then you could call it ASL, couldn't you? And people could go, "Oh, I played ASL last night."
Yeah.
We did an ISO on a TUP, and now I want a DIE, Georgios.
Yeah, you're oddly morbid today.
Climate.
Hot yoga, maybe? Or even better, Whoomp, there it is.
Is that the sound of the Earth exploding in climate change disaster? Woomph.
I'm quite certain that Earth is not going to explode in climate change disaster. What's going to happen is...
I watched that movie with God out of Bruce Almighty, and they had to put a bomb in the centre of the Earth or something. There was a meteor or something.
Interestingly enough, not a documentary. No, a lot of people don't know that.
I thought it was.
No, yeah, no. I thought as well. But then, there's this one scene where this guy, who's supposed to be left-handed, uses a switch with his right hand, and then that's when I realised, oh no, this is fake.
And there was that movie about that guy who was writing words on pictures in meme font in a bunker.
Oh, really?
Deep Impact, Georgios. Anyway, music.
Wow, that was... wow.
Music, Georgios.
Good Lord. Music. I don't know. How about two geniuses, one cup?
Do they sing in the cup for resonance?
Yeah.
Is it a dexterity game? You got to bounce.
Sure.
You got balls, which you call voices.
No, you sing into the cup. Basically, you sing your inspiration into the cup, and then the other player needs to drink that inspiration.
Excellent. Yeah. $89.95 on Kickstarter. With the stretch goals, you get a string to hang yourself.
Can I just point out just how awful that reference was? Because I'm fully aware how awful that reference is.
And do you know, the thing is, one thing I'm happy about with the music, I can't join the 27 Club anymore.
Which is the what's that?
What's all those people who died at 27, like Amy Winehouse, Kurt Cobain, Robbie Bobson, Paul.
Obviously.
It's all the references.
All the references today.
And finally, animal breeding.
I'm going to go with buggery.
That's a great name for a board game.
It's about bugs.
Exactly.
Obviously.
You're breeding buggery. You're breeding bugs. You can have ladybirds and beetles and...
See, that's not a reference yet.
Cockroaches.
Still not a reference.
And cat biters.
That might be a reference.
They're the little ones that bite your cats.
Yeah, no, not a reference.
Anyway, so, going on then, Georgios.
Yes, on and on and on.
We'll whiz past Dan Hughes' assertion that everything should be about Huddersfield. I've been to Huddersfield, Georgios. It's got a shopping centre. So Dan Hughes says, clearly the obvious answer to this question is the outrageous absence of Huddersfield as a theme in modern board gaming.
Yeah, there should be more games about...
Huddersfield.
Yeah, think about it. No, really think about it.
Huddersfield, the board game. Okay, so, Ferdjurf.
Yes.
Greetings from Bergen. What does Ferdjurf say?
More games that don't need a table. Maybe even that can be played outdoors.
You see, I have an issue with this, Georgios.
So do I.
I have two facets to my life, Georgios.
Up and down?
I'm gonna let you in, and to the listeners, into the private life of Benjamino Maddoxian right now.
But why? What have we done to you?
Well, I think, people like to get to know the hosts a little bit, don't they? They think, he let me into his life, and now I know that he scratches his bum while watching the telly. Things like that.
Yeah, that's quite unique.
Blood group W positive. You know what I mean? And so I have two sort of facets. I have my board gaming sitting inside facet, right? Yeah. Where I sit around with people, maybe drink a couple of beers, play a couple of games, swear a little bit. And then I have my...
Not quite in that order, though.
Right. And then I have my outside facet where I go camping and I ride my bike. And so this summer, I'm cycling from Copenhagen to Berlin, right?
How do you get to Copenhagen?
I'm going by train. That's the prosaic part, Georgios.
Okay.
But I'm going from Copenhagen to Berlin, I'm cycling. That's outdoors. During this time, I probably want to play the games because I'm in my outside facet.
Right.
I don't want my inside facet to bleed all over my outside facet, Georgios.
Yeah, bleeding is not good.
Terrible clean-up job. So,
Yeah, you know about clean-ups.
And I have to disagree with Ferdjurf here because, I don't want games that can be played outdoors. I just want to cycle my bike on.
Yeah, I'm going to do something very awful now.
What's that?
Not only am I going to kind of agree with you...
Good.
I'm going to make a point that's almost coherent.
Come on, then.
I like board games.
So do I.
On tables, in closed spaces.
That's right, where shit can't blow away in that.
Yeah, but mostly because they provide structure. They provide a focal point for people's attention. They give you sort of a space to sit more or less close to one another and really, be around one another. I feel that games that take place outside, in order to actually have any value in being placed outside, you would need to take advantage of the space you're given. I mean, if you're outside, it's much more fun to run around, it's much fun to do all kinds of things that you wouldn't normally be able to do at a table at home. So I kind of like being at home, sitting at a table playing board games as opposed to playing all kinds of games outside of, say...
It's an indoor medium, isn't it, Georgios?
I don't know. I mean, yes, in a way. I think this... I'm just saying this is one of the rare cases where I talk about personal preferences. I'm just not that interested in these non-board games, even though I think that can be quite fun and interesting and engaging in all kinds of ways. But I like the tactility, I like the visuals, I like the fact that it's a weird way of extending some... It's sort of reminiscent of sitting together for an evening meal, for dinner. Instead of eating and drinking, you're playing and drinking, and maybe eating something as well. But the main focus is the play. And I like that. And I feel that a lot of this would be missing if we were to just take the activity of play and put it outside.
And when you go into the miracle of nature, you can see like gambling rabbits and
dog poop on the lawn,
birds shagging each other and that.
Bird poop on the lawn.
You don't want to play games. You want to breathe in the miracle of watching a couple of cocker spaniels really fucking going at it before you pour soapy water on them to separate them because you don't want puppies. Anyway, Georgios, going on finally to young Danny Perello.
Yes.
The son of the tire magnet, I assume.
Really?
Where they do those sexy calendars with the naked ladies every year? And Danny,
are they naked?
Yeah, well,
slightly
they're artistically lit, Georgios. So you only see like the tip of the nip.
Yeah, so basically naked. Yeah.
So Danny Perello,
yes,
son of the tire magnate. I mean, why does Danny? We know that you make the tires. We know you're a billionaire.
No, I think
chuck us a couple of quid, Danny.
No,
Come on,
I think you're wrong. I think Danny is in fact the guy that Frankie, is calling for in the 80s, because Frankie says relax.
All right, let's do this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he wants to make a game about running competing advertising agencies. Could be set in the late 60s or early 70s, like Mad Men, one of the best shows, or set in modern times, but as a heavy Euro-style game. I think there could be some interesting gameplay opportunities, provided you don't mind playing as a soulless, manipulative asshat. Then again, morality rarely interferes with settings in games these days, but we've already had that discussion, haven't we? I'm not sure we have.
But that's Pret-a-Porter, right, essentially? You're playing competing fashion houses, the same bloody thing, essentially, isn't it? Pret-a-Porter.
Maybe.
It's going to be competing video game studios soon, isn't it?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Disappointed.
Yeah, I like the fashion element a bit more.
Yeah, I think I can sort of see the thinking behind this, because the assumption is that it would appeal to a bigger percentage of the gaming populace, which I could imagine is true. But also, I think it seems to support a stereotypical idea of what gamers are and what they like and what they're interested in a way that Pret-a-Porter didn't.
But it's constantly reinforced, though, isn't it? If you ever hear anyone talk about like a game that is renowned for being fantastic, I actually haven't played it, and it's by one of my favourite designers, Rococo.
Yeah.
You listen to a lot of stuff, and when people mention Rococo, everyone else just coughs like, it's about making dresses, it's about making dresses. As if, making dresses is unseemly for fucking people who are morbidly obese and eat Cheetos all the time to indulge themselves in. There's a lot of this idea that if you do something that's not stereotypically masculine male, like World of Warcraft, that it's somehow unseemly and you should be mocked and laughed at. And I think that's a direct reaction. I guess the Pret-a-Porter thing is a direct reaction to that, because people think, this is not right for gamers, where it's ripe for gamers, I think. Exciting and interesting. Different themes is where board games really shine through,
Oh yeah, I think there's some truth to that. I think the rejection mostly comes out of, like so many things, I guess some sense of insecurity. Because as far as gaming culture is concerned, and to a certain extent I have to make assumptions here, because I am currently lucky enough to be surrounded by gamers who don't really care about these distinctions. But I can imagine people who do feel uncomfortable around games like Rococo or Pret-a-Porter feel that they need to establish their masculinity by mocking these themes, by distancing themselves from them, even if it's just, expounding just how utterly uninteresting they are, which I think is such a facetious argument, because if you can enjoy a game that's all about farming, literally, and medieval farming. Yeah, medieval farming. And you can extol the virtues of that game to the nth degree, to then go, making ball dresses is boring. Yeah. It's a facetious argument, right? It is. It suggests that somehow you need the theme to keep you engaged in a game, even though in every other argument, these same people would argue, it's the gameplay that's engaging. It's the gameplay that attracts me. And I don't really care about the theme. So these arguments don't seem to fit very often. So again, I don't want to claim that everyone who doesn't like the theme of Pret-a-Porter or Rococo is insecure about the masculinity, or the femininity even. But I do think that I can imagine that this does play a role with some people. And also, without going wildly over the top, sometimes it's just, banter and that. And it's blokes taking the piss out of other blokes because blokes take the piss out of other blokes, right? And it's not a vile assertion of misogyny either, without wanting to, you don't want to make that case either. But it's good, because there's absolutely nothing. We just talked for the last 5 minutes, absolutely nothing about Danny's post. So yes, well done. Thanks, Dan. Anyway, Georgios, I've got to go now, because really, well, I'm going to get back. Janine's not working; she's at home. Right. So I'm going to get back and see if she's up to summers, if she's hiding summers. I'm going to spy on her.
using one of them. I bought one of them things. It's
Right.
like a plastic thing.
Yeah.
And you turn it in front of your eyes and you get star patterns. And maybe that'll help me see through her ruse, Georgios.
How about this?
Right.
As a test,
Okay.
buy a bunch of batteries.
Batteries, yeah. Because she don't let me touch the ones at home.
Exactly. And then, as a gift,
She says I eat them.
just give them to her.
I
just
eat them.
casually. Don't eat batteries.
They taste good though.
Don't. And see how she reacts.
Okay.
If she's happy,
Right. Ooh, lovely batteries.
if she's nervous,
Ooh, batteries.
yeah, either of these reactions should give you pause. And if she just goes, why, you're fine.
Give me pause.
Yes, like a dog.
Say goodnight, Georgios.
No, I'm gonna find you some batteries.
I'm Nick Mariner, and this is the Board Game Professor. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's good to be with you again. Let's get right into it. Last time I was on the show, we talked about the work of Friedrich Nietzsche, and I spent some time talking about the ethics of board games. What is the ethical imperative, the moral imperative when we play games? And if you'll recall what I argued, and I think I still believe this, I mean, I said it, so it's probably right. What I said was that because a board game, any board game, is a self-contained system, all of the ethics of what's right and wrong in that game have already been decided for us. And I use Nietzsche to sort of explain his theory. If there's any sort of ethical quandary at all with the way a game, or the content of a game, that the choice, your ethical dilemma for that game is to choose to play it or not. Once you've decided to play it, the ethics have already been determined. And what I also left by arguing was that the ethics of board games, the purpose of board games, if we're thinking about Nietzsche, is the pursuit of power, to win a game. All games, the exact intention is to win. I've talked about that on this podcast before. I know Georgios has talked about it several times with his concept of the magic circle, which I think is a pretty erudite summation of what we're doing at the table. So there's a game I wanted to talk about this week, and then I'd like to talk about it a little bit more in terms of power and how that works, and some lessons we can learn from the materials we have. I'd like to talk about the game Through the Ages 2nd edition, specifically, the Vlada game. It's a game that I have gotten into probably just in the last 6 months, but I've played it in person and online at least a dozen times, which is pretty impressive for 6 months, given the fact that the game I think I still have a game that's going on now. I started it 4 years ago. It's a long, dense game, but I think there are some days, depending on my mood, I'm willing to go as far as to say it might have become my favorite game. Depending on how I'm feeling, like I might still say Terra Mystica or Agricola, but some days I think I am as impressed with Through the Ages as I have ever been with any game I've ever played. If you've never played Through the Ages, it's a civilization building game. You can play up to 3 ages if you'd like. The full game, it's going to take you about 4 to 6 hours. But what you are doing is drafting cards from a card row, and you're managing your resources in order to build the civilization that has the highest culture points at the end of the game. And there are a lot of things to manage in this game. There are lots of cubes moving around. You can choose to build different sorts of industries, etc., in order to maybe advance faster than your opponents. There's science tracks, there's military tracks. You also have a set of cubes that is your workers and a set of cubes that is your food. The workers are the yellow cubes you'll push around the board, and those you assign to different cards to indicate that you've set up like a mine, for instance, or a laboratory. and those are going to generate more resources for you. However, there is a happiness track that is attached to the workers, and if you don't maintain or produce enough happiness in the game for your workers, and you've stretched them too thin, you're going to have a revolt. I forget what it's called, a revolt maybe, an uprising. I actually forget what you call it in the game. But the essential idea is, if you're going to employ labor, and if you're going to ask people to do for you, which is essentially what you're doing in this game, then you also have to do something to maintain their contentedness, because if you don't, they'll throw a fit. There's also your resource track, and if you have a shortage of resources, if you're not producing enough in the game, or you're producing too much, you're going to pay consequences for that as well. You're not going to be able to feed all your people, and that can be a catastrophe as well when you're trying to get your engine up and running. It's a terrific game. I mean, it is pristine. It can be, I think the people who don't like it, some of the people in my group aren't fans of it. It can really be punishing if you make a big boneheaded mistake. For instance, I was playing online with some of the friends of our show here. I wasn't paying attention to my military track. When the age changed, my military power decreased significantly, and in a 4-player game, if you're not keeping up with military, you're going to get your ass handed to you, because every round starts with the potential for a conflict with another player. You can start a war, you can play an aggression card, and if you outmatch them or outstrip them in military power, you can do a lot of damage. And it was just every person's turn started with just beating me into the ground. It was like falling down the stairs and then having everybody one by one slap my books out of my hand on their way by. A lot of fun. Great times. Thanks for playing, you guys. Here's the thing, though, and why I've gotten to think about this in terms of ethics, etc. I don't love war. I don't love military. I don't love the military-industrial complex. I don't like any of this stuff, so I don't want to play a game in which my civilization is required to build that. Its success is dependent on military strength. And so I struggled with that when I first played the game. Like, I'll just build up my science, I'll build up my religion, this will be great, and I'll survive. And you simply can't survive, especially in a game of a larger player count in a game like that, without at least defending yourself. All of which, this game, Through the Ages, it's an incredibly abstracted game with just, it's a bit of a cube pusher and a card drafter, but I think it's a game that demonstrates the concepts of maintaining power in really interesting ways. And so the first great treatise on how to build and maintain power was written by a funny little Italian guy named Niccolò Machiavelli, about 500 years ago. And this work is called The Prince. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's 70 pages long. It'll take you a day and a half to work your way through. But if you want any insight into the way power and politics work now, read The Prince. It has lasted as long as it had for its verisimilitude. You can see how correct Machiavelli was simply by looking around and making observations even about our current world, which exists in a far different form than his did, but his estimation of how a prince gains and maintains power is still, 500 years later, right on point. One of the games I thought about talking about in terms of The Prince was Lorenzo the Magnificent, which just came out, because The Prince was dedicated to Lorenzo de' Medici, but it didn't really fit the way it did. Machiavelli makes a few assertions about how to maintain power. This is it started as essentially a pamphlet that he dedicated to Lorenzo de' Medici to say, look, I've looked out across all of these different empires and kingdoms and princes, and here is my advice to you on how to gain power and how to keep power. And it was an incredibly controversial work. Then it was banned by the Catholic Church, and it's still a controversial work now. It was banned by the Catholic Church because Machiavelli essentially said that if you want to be a prince and if you want to have power, you're going to have to do bad sometimes. That you cannot abide purely by a Christian morality because you don't have the luxury. You're sometimes going to have to punish people openly. You're sometimes going to have to posture and deceive. And I don't know, any number of things that you do to maintain power that aren't necessarily moral good. He also made a couple claims about what people are like in this piece of work, and he essentially said that if you want to control a population, or if you want to make sure that they never come back and try to harm you and depose you, you need to keep them pacified. And a few ways to do that are to always be good, or always appear to be virtuous. You don't necessarily have to be, but you at least need to establish institutions and open demonstrations of your virtuousness. Like churches, like extravaganzas, like large shows. But you also need to entertain them. He used this idea a couple times of like entertainment. Do something to keep them happy, keep them sated. Give them the bread and circuses, which is great because there is a card in Through the Ages called Bread and Circuses. To come back to this idea that if you just give them fast food they can afford and a fucking football game every day of the week for 6 months of the year, everybody will just remain happy and they won't think about the fact that you are literally dominating them. He also made an assertion, though, in the book, and this is where I think it's an interesting correlation to the game, where he said that it is, given the choice between whether it's better to be feared or loved, it is always better to be feared. That it would be great if you could be both. Ideally, you could be both. But fear is always a better protector of your power than love. Love is fickle. People are fickle. People will change their minds. It'll be this sort of a, what have you done for me lately? And then you'll be out the door. But if they're afraid of you, if they can't touch you without fear of reprisal, and that includes other governments, then your power is more secure. So, what is the politics of power in Through the Ages? I think there's a couple things that this game does that really makes me think about the way Machiavelli was writing. The first is the way you have to keep your workers contented. In the game, you have to develop technologies and build temples and things like that are going to produce happy faces, which is going to make sure that even though your workers are doing work for you, they are happy enough that they won't revolt and cause problems for you. And a lot of those are done with religious buildings, which is a fascinating idea, because Machiavelli talked very explicitly about the church and how the church is a tool of manipulating the masses by keeping them satisfied and by demonstrating your own morality. But there's other things like entertainment things, and like I just talked about, bread and circuses, etc. Those are going to produce happy faces, and Machiavelli specifically went on and on and on about this idea that overt control works sometimes. Fear is a useful manipulator, but mass pacification of the population is an equally useful tool in maintaining control and power. And that is a base function of Through the Ages, and it's very clever. Not a lot of worker placement games, maybe Euphoria does this, a couple other, deal with this concept, which is that if you what you're doing in the game is asking people to work for you. And if you're going to keep people working for you, if you're going to maintain control over people, you have to find a way to keep them from realizing they've been disfranchised and overthrowing you. And this game builds that into its system, and I think it's incredibly clever. But I also think there is an element of fear is better than love and Through the Ages. To create a power at the table is essential. That it must be core to your strategy that no one else at the table wants to fuck with you. That they can't even risk the possibility of losing out. And so that is fundamental to the game as well. Controlling the people that belong to you and keeping the people who oppose you from ever wanting to mess with you. That is the game of Through the Ages. And that was the exact advice Machiavelli gave to Lorenzo 500 years ago. Pacify and control your people and make sure nobody else wants to come and overthrow you from without. And I think it's a great example of figuring out how Machiavelli described power, but also what we are doing at the table, which is the constant pursuit of power. Even though that seems extreme, because they are just games after all. We are just like throwing little wooden cubes around. That's what we're doing. It's a contest to win. And to win is, I think, by possibly loose definition, the pursuit of power. The pursuit to dominate, at least for an hour at the table, however sort of passively and non-aggressively that happens. And in order to do that, you must outwit everyone else, and you must manipulate your resources better than anything else. And when those resources are people in a game, that's the dance we're doing. How can I get exploit my resources to my own successful need? Alright, I think that's it. Now, Machiavelli praised this way of power. And one of the reasons it's so controversial is because it creeps you the fuck out. Because not only is he so right, but it's not comfortable to think about, to behave this way. You're not supposed to pretend to be behaving this way. However, all of the founders of this country, the United States, read Machiavelli as teenagers in their upbringing. Like, they're all very aware of what they were doing. But it's sort of a magician tipping his hand kind of thing. You're not supposed to say out loud, this is how you think. So that's why it's controversial. But there became a lot of critiques later on, centuries later, of how to overthrow those who are implementing this sort of power structure. And one of the greats is Antonio Gramsci, who I think I'm probably going to do for next week. So we're going to be thinking about that a little bit, if I can maybe figure out how that ties in well. Thanks for listening. I'll be back, my standard who the hell knows when at this point. But we'll get into a little bit more about power. We'll get into a little bit more about what we're doing at the table, and we'll see where this heads. I'm Nick Mariner, on Twitter, @TheGoodMariner. Thanks for listening.
Well, you're looking a lot fresher this morning than me, Georgios. Obviously missing the Berlin Con annual orgy has done you good.
Yes, I've showered, I've shaved where I needed to shave, and I'm well rested for a man with 2 kids.
So, tell the good people, Georgios, where we are.
We are in Berlin. More specifically at the Swiss Hotel. More specifically still in front of the press gala of the Spiel des Jahres celebration. Prize announcement. What you call it? Thingamajig. The Spiel des Jahres thingamajig.
We managed to blag ourselves into the Spiel des Jahres thing.
Well, one of us managed, another one was invited.
And I just went to the desk, and my name was on the list, and it was all above board. Frankly, I'm shocked, because I'm such a fucking chancer that this is amazing. But yeah, here we are in some sort of mid-price hotel in the centre of Berlin.
Well, no, it's not mid-price. It's probably one of the bigger ones. I think there are maybe 2 or 3 higher rated.
Well, regardless of my hotel criticism, that's not important. Yeah. And there are people who I usually see in T-shirts, wearing suits.
Yes, from yesterday's orgy, I guess.
Exactly.
Right.
Not birthday suits.
And
yeah, so just basically what we have is the Spiel des Jahres, and we'll do a little walk around the prize hall later, but for the moment, safe to say, we shouldn't motherfucking be here.
I did celebrity spot Dr. Rainer Knizia.
Ooh.
He looks exactly like he does on his pictures, including his bow tie.
And Inka and Marcus Brand, who designed the exit game, just walked past us.
They are, we're totally starved, whatever it is called.
Both wearing suits.
That's awful.
So, it's a deep cut from last year. Fans of the show will remember we interviewed...
All 5 of them.
Indeed. The most auspicious judge on the Spiel des Jahres jury. The man, Martin Klein. Good morning, Martin. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
So, now we've got you in front of a microphone.
Yes.
Are you going to tell us which game won?
No.
No, but see, it's a nice try, but
Not yet.
I'm going to be sneakier. So, I asked you before, but we didn't record it yet. How do you feel before the announcement? What's the general attitude of the jury? What's the general attitude of you? How do you feel about, in a few minutes, all these collected board game journalists are going to hear you say, this is the game of the year, and they're all going to go, what?
Yeah, well,
especially me.
You can feel the excitement rising in this room,
right.
And it starts to get on me as well.
Right.
So the excitement rises, obviously, the closer it gets. It's just less than an hour,
okay.
About 30 minutes till we start the ceremony,
right.
And you can feel the tension in the room, and yeah, that certainly catches me as well.
Do you feel like after the announcement has been made, you would, there'll be criticism, some maybe deserved, some definitely undeservedly. Do you feel like you need to respond to criticism after an announcement, or do you feel like my job is now done, this is all between you guys?
Well, generally, I don't think that we answer to criticism in that regard, because I think we are all, the whole jury stands behind all the nominees,
right.
And I think we did a great job this year. I'm really happy with all the nominees, and so obviously there's always some people complaining about the nominees, and there's always some people that complain, but most of the time I think they got their reason behind that, but it's nothing that really matters to
So
me.
on that, how do you feel this year's raft of nominations compares to previous years? Do you think it's stronger? Do you think it's weaker? Do you think it's the same? Do you think these year's nominees do something different?
It's really hard to compare this, because this year we have 6 totally different games than last year. So last year we had what's similar is that we again have a game with a limited amount of plays, which is the exit game. Last year we had the pandemic game and time stories. So that maybe is something that starts to become a novelty in board gaming. But other than that, it's really hard to compare. I can't really tell if this year has been better or worse than last year, because I think the nominees are really distinctive. Each of the nominees has a right to be nominated on its own.
And you feel excited that you have 2 big hitters nominated? You have Bruno Catala, you have Rainer Knizia, and then the designer of Magic Mazes' its first game, I think.
I believe so,
I think that is basically one of the cool things about the board game industry in total, because there are people that have been around for like 20, 30 years, and they are also still excited when they get a nomination. And then you can be a newcomer, and if the game is good enough, you certainly can be nominated as well. So it's open for everyone. Everyone can get a nomination if he creates a great game.
So I'm just going to ask you one more time before we leave. Are you going to tell us who's won?
Is it Settlers of Catan?
I will tell you in about an hour.
Brilliant. Well, Martin Klein, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Set the scene for us, Georgie.
Well, we're sitting at a table. It's actually quite like home when we're playing games. But right now we have a press booklet in front of us, a notebook, a pen, a glass.
And it's all Spiel des Jahres branded.
Yes.
So all of that money from the games you take, this is what they spend it on.
I'm not quite sure that's how the money flow actually works, but
I'm a professional economist.
Yes. I think at least 3 words of that were wrong.
Well, because we all know
mostly am.
Because we all know economics is bullshit, right? It's a pseudoscience, so I'm pretty much anointing myself a professional economist.
Yeah, no, you're right. We're both highly paid professional economists in that sense. Yeah, we're sitting here, press conference. It's going to start in a bit. We're going to probably see a few videos reminding us of the games that have been nominated, some opening words where we are told that it's about board games, and some of us will have to leave because we expected it was an orgy. I'm sorry, Ben. And
I'm spent.
Anyway, yeah. So it's interesting. It's kind of like it's very interesting to see this up and down of professionalism. I don't mean in a bad way, but on the one hand you have people scribbling notes, prototypes on pieces of paper on some cardboard, and then you have something that looks pretty professional with an entire hall decked out with tables, press materials, board game media people from mostly from Germany, but from outside Germany as well. And of course the nominated designers, all of them are here. I can see the back of the head of Rainer Knizia. I saw the front of the head of Bruno Cathala earlier. Ben assures me that Inke Brandt and Marcus Brandt, I believe, are here as well.
I'm sure the Frixiliuses are here somewhere too.
I have seen him as well, so it's a lot of star spotting, if you can call designers stars.
But what's really interesting is it still feels, even though this is the sort of cutting edge of professionalism and all that sort of stuff within the board gaming industry.
You're just saying that because you're here, aren't you?
No, well, but the thing is, it all seems very community oriented too. Like everyone knows each other, and there's none of this sort of, cliques of publishers standing off, glaring malevolently across the room at each other and all that. Everyone goes up, says hello. It's all very collegiate. Yeah, and reflects the industry as I experience it. Right?
Oh yeah. Now the great thing is none of these people, none of the publishers know us, so we haven't gotten any evil glares yet. Next year might be different.
Well, fingers crossed when I commit all those murders.
All right. So burning down the house and committing murders. You're going for the trumpet, aren't you?
They're revealing the winner now.
Des Jahres 2017 heißt Exit.
And Exit has won the Kenner Spiel. I just predicted it. So, just a quick reaction, Georgie. What do you think?
I'm disappointed.
I think it's definitely the worst game of the three. I have issues with the fact that you just throw loads of shit away. And, yeah, I think Georgie summed it up. A little bit disappointed.
Spiel des Jahres 2017 ist...
So Kingdomino has won the Spiel des Jahres. For me, probably the one I liked the least. Although, to be honest, I'm not massively disappointed by this. I think the game is solid. I just think it's a filler, not a Spiel des Jahres. Georgie.
It's an award for Bruno Cathala, who has been great influence on a lot of gamers. He deserves a proper award. Unfortunately, it's not his best game, but what can you do? Absolutely. I mean, you'd have to be incredibly mean-spirited not to think Bruno Cathala deserves an award, right? Definitely. So I'm standing here and resplendent in a pith hat and explorer's costume is the good Dr. Rainer Knizia. Well, my commiserations, you didn't win. But the first question is, what did you think of the games that were nominated this year?
Well, it's a very strong selection, and each of the three games are deserved winners. So I think that the variety of the different games nominated, and therefore the offer to the public of trying these games out, is a real enrichment for the gaming industry and the players.
And so what do you think the Spiel des Jahres does for the industry in terms of getting new people into the hobby?
It has a great importance because it creates a lot of awareness for the industry. It brings the games to the forefront in the media, and therefore people are aware that these games are there, they see them in the shops, and they are more likely to buy them, and that means essentially more people will play the games, and once you play them, and only when you play them, you'll see the beauty of our industry, the beauty of our games, and then we'll hopefully have many more people playing, because I believe that's one of the best things you can do in the world, play games.
I agree. I mean, you're well known for your very accessible games. They're very clever. I don't want to use clever sounds somehow dismissive, but I'm always amazed by just how neatly they work, how highly polished they are. Some of the first games I've ever tried that got me into this hobby, like Lost Cities, like Celtis even, they've always amazed me because I've seen a lot of games that are cumbersome, but they're trying for something, and you make it seem so easy. Is that true? Do these games come easily to you, or are they as much a struggle to finish as they are for other game designers?
They don't come easy, and they're not a struggle. They are a long development time, which is joyful. Sometimes also needs a lot of discipline. But you know, as soon as you have something which is easy, which is straightforward, but nevertheless has a depth and the excitement of play, then when people afterwards say, well, that's how it should be, then usually you have put a lot of work in it to get there. I think if you stop halfway, you get these messy designs where you have lots of administration, lots of loose ends, and tying all these loose ends together and really making a essentially perfect design, so that in the end you don't even see what could ever have been different, then you know you have done a good job.
So what next for... We're not sure of the English title.
El Dorado.
So what next for El Dorado?
Well, I have some ideas, and we are certainly going to discuss, Ravensburger, the publisher, and myself, how we take the next steps. It is, according to the jury and according to me as well, it is one of the best best games of the year within this 2017. So we want to build on this success, and we want to build a lot of new ideas. We will then see how many the market wants. I think what I would push for at the moment is just one nice expansion, because a deck building game, of course, is built on what comes next, what do we do. Of course, we have more than cards. We have the wonderful variable board. And so I think we find new ways to find El Dorado and new treasures. And that's something to look forward to. And it will be lots of fun to develop this very good basis further on.
Brilliant. Well, Dr. Rainer Knizia, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we're here in the palatial post-show room with Shem Phillips, designer of Raiders of the North Sea.
Yep.
Firstly, I'd just like to say commiserations, but amazing to be nominated, no?
Yeah, the nomination's huge as it is, so very happy, yeah.
Because this is, I mean, you own the publishing company that does the games in English, right?
Yes.
Because you did them originally through Kickstarter.
Yep.
So was it a surprise to be nominated for the big game award in Germany?
Yeah, it was a huge surprise. I mean, Carsten from Schwerkraft told me that he was going to try and get it nominated, but I didn't think that would ever happen. So, yeah, huge. And then to actually be here and stuff was amazing.
And so how's the trip to Germany been and all that?
Good. It's a long journey, like three flights, about 35 hours of flying. But it's worth it to be here, you know. This could be a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing, really.
Absolutely. So what's going to happen with the series? Because you've got... Now, you're going to have Shipwrights,
yep.
Raiders, and there's a third one? Explorers, that kickstarted last year, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so what's going to happen with the series from now?
So there's currently two expansions for Raiders in manufacture right now. They'll be released towards the end of this year. And right now there's actually a Kickstarter for an expansion for Explorers, like live right now. So after that, I'm not sure if I'll do more Vikings or not, but not saying no. But yeah.
And sorry.
Go on.
But there's this. You have this system whereby you can connect the three games, right? Why and how? All of those questions.
Well, I started with Shipwrights as the first game, and then people said, I like these ships I built, but I want to use them to raids, which is where Raiders came from. And then obviously a trilogy is better than just two games, so I did a trilogy. And then I think after Raiders, people were asking, can you play the games together? But this is a good question to ask. So I came up with a system which is quite simple, but it's just a basic scoring mechanism where you play all three, and certain things you can achieve in one game might give you a benefit or a bonus in the next game.
Now the German Spiel des Jahres award distinguishes between Kennerspiele and Spiel des Jahres. Vaguely, Kennerspiele aims at a more sophisticated gaming crowd. How do you see those games yourself? Do you think they're games for the connoisseur, or do you think are they for everyone, or are they for, let's say, the hardcore gamers?
From what I understand, it's for people who already know the family games well. and they want to play something a bit deeper. Not necessarily like a really intense 3-hour game, but something that you have to have a bit of experience playing games.
And where do you see your games?
I think mine's definitely on the lighter side of the Kinderspiel, but it's not really a family game, so it's kind of in the middle of that. Yeah. So it is quite easy to pick up the game if you don't know games, but it's definitely going to help if you know some games at least.
Brilliant. Well, Shem, congratulations, and good luck with the jet lag.
Thank you.
Hello. So we're here right now with probably the hottest name in board game design. Jakob, I assume it's Jakob Frixilius, designer of Terraforming Mars. First question I want to ask is, you got a bit political on stage.
Amazing.
And
I love it.
You know, in an arena in which people like to avoid politics, why did you feel the need to say something?
Because I think, you refer to the mention of NASA, for example. That was only an example, because it applies to all nations, actually. If all nations spent as much on space exploration as on military, we would all be there, or have the ability to do it. But I think the greatest obstacle is actually this political thing, where we choose other things. We don't choose to spend so much on the visions for the future, and I think that is a big issue. And it's not. I don't know if it's wrong politics or not, but with that politics, it's a very slow walk towards the future.
But a lot of people would say, with starving kids and schools in ruin, why should we give our money to something that many people might consider a frippery, like space exploration?
That is a true concern, and that is why I don't want to do that. But we spend also a lot of money on other things that should not be necessary. The military, for example, we should have a peaceful world. We should not be forced to do those kind of things. If we used our technology to the full, there would not be any starvation, and so on. So if humanity could come together, it would free up so much resources so that we could do all of these wonderful things also. But unfortunately, there is politics, and the people want to hold on to their thing, and they are suspicious of others, and there is a lot of problems, and we have our own problems, and we think that we should have this political solution, and they think they should have that political solution, and it's really very difficult. And I don't say it's that politicians in every country are bad, but it's, I think, inherently a very difficult thing to solve.
So going to the more prosaic now, are you surprised by the crazy success of Terraforming Mars?
Of course. We're a small family business. We started 5 years ago with handmade copies of a couple of our games coming to Essen. And we had no idea it would be like this. Even when we had partners, even when we got the cooperation with Schwerkraft Verlag and Rebel Games and Stronghold Games, that was our biggest success. And we had no idea it would be this success. Because, I mean, it sold out. We had no idea it would. And more people wanted to print it and so on. So, no, we are really humble and have no... We're really humble about this. It's beyond our... We still can't really grasp what's happened. But it's wonderful too, because this also means that more people know us, more people trust us, and our coming games will have a better chance to reach the public.
Just returning to the very optimistic and high-minded, and I highly appreciate ideas about we should put our money on things that are more valuable than military. Is this emotion, this idea of striving for something better? Is this something you could imagine tackling in a board game?
You mean making a board game about
being better, about improving yourself, about working together to make something better? Because it seems to be terraforming
This is a board game like that.
Definitely, but there's a certain, not meanness, but a certain, let's say, conflict buried within terraforming Mars itself.
Yeah, that is because you have corporations.
Okay.
Because we envision a future where humanity has kind of united, but you also have this free market, meaning that you have corporations and they can grow and so on, and they have to compete with each other. But they have to do it in a peaceful environment, so to speak. But there will always be competition and well, more or less. I mean, there is some take that in the game.
But is it necessary for everyone to play all the take that cards on me?
Yes.
We've known each other. We've known each other for a minute and a half now, so you can tell me whether I deserve that to happen to me.
Of course, you're a competing corporation.
So you were at the Berlin Con yesterday, and you had an expansion with you. So what comes next for Terraforming Mars?
Venus comes next. So actually, in a month or so, we have a double-sided board coming out with Hellas and Elysium with new milestones and awards and different sides of Mars. But in October, we have the expansion called Venus Next. Some people think we should make a separate game for Terraforming Venus, but we wanted to make it an expansion instead. So you do both. It's a kind of a parallel thing that you can do. So you have more different strategies in the game.
Excellent. Well, Jakob Praxilius, thank you very much for your time.
No problem. Thank you.
So we're here with Casper Lapp. Is that correct pronunciation?
Yeah.
That's one of the easier Danish names to say.
Yeah.
A designer of Magic Maze, and this is a little secret, but yours was the one I wanted to win the most. I think it's fabulous. So commiserations, but it must be wonderful to be nominated, no?
Of course it is, yeah.
It's your first game, I understand.
It's my first published game.
First published game.
Yeah.
So I guess basically a very star-like rise from going from the first published game to at least the biggest, most prestigious award ceremony in Germany as far as board games are concerned. So what are your first impressions about being now part of this community of respected game designers?
I like the community a lot. People are so nice, so it's really a pleasure being here. Everybody's, it's not. It doesn't feel so much as competition. We're just friendly with each other. So it's been a nice weekend.
And so, how long from having the idea for the game to getting it published to being here then?
I first came up with the idea in 2014 for a competition in Denmark, and then it won that competition, and I developed it further. And when it used to be very complicated with on a spaceship with aliens and robots, but when I contacted Sit Down, they said, have you thought about making this into a more simple game? Because then it could sell 10,000 instead of 1,000 copies. And I thought, yeah, that sounds great. So I tried making a simpler game where everybody could play along. And that was Magic Maze.
One of the things I noticed when people were talking about this game, there seems to be one controversial aspect of it, which is the red token that you put in front of people. I've seen two ways it plays out. It's the calm one. You just place it in front of a player and look at them.
Or the correct one.
Yeah. Or the angry one where you just snap it all the time. Was that a distinction that you realized, that you noticed as well in playtest? And was it a conscious decision to phrase how to use it, or did you not do that?
I actually didn't think that much about the phrasing, I must admit. But I noticed people always tapped it. I think it's okay because it doesn't work. It just stresses people out.
Yes, exactly.
You can use it to communicate something about the time, though. So you should save it. You should save it for real emergencies when we're running out of time. Tap.
Exactly.
But if you do it all the time,
one of the things I really loved about this game, and I said this when we were talking about the nominees, is that once you get into this, the main question that rings in your head is not how do I get what I want, but how can I help other players? How can I help everybody else get what they want? And I think that really sets it apart from a lot of other co-op games I know, and very much of all the other games nominated, as great as they are. This is a very unique element of Magic Maze, and one of the main reasons why I really, really love this, and why we both wanted Magic Maze to actually be recognized as this, I think, great piece of game development, game design in 2017. My question is basically this emotion of wanting to help others. How did this emerge during the game development process?
Well, I didn't realize exactly what I had created before I saw it in action.
Right.
The first idea was just that the thing about you having a direction to move the pawns, and then I thought that needs to be challenging. So and I don't want an alpha gamer telling everybody what to do. So it needs to be in silence, and it developed from there. I lost.
No, this idea of wanting to help others. You said you discovered it as you played it and not as you designed it.
Yeah.
So how did it go about? How did how did this influence the rest of the game development? Or did it? Or did you
I'm
just?
not sure.
It was just something you discovered, and then you said, "This is gold. I'm not touching this again."
Yeah. I realized that the sit-down was correct when they said that it should be a simpler game, because it really was the core mechanic that gave that thing to the game. So I didn't need all the aliens and robots and stuff. I just needed places you could go and places you could disagree about going. So one player wants to go there and the other player wants to go there, and they need to make a common decision somehow without speaking.
And so I was speaking to someone else, your fellow Dane, Asger Granerud, yesterday. And now I'm not sure if you're allowed to talk about this, but he was telling me about the future of Magic Maze.
Yeah.
What's going to happen in the future with it?
Well, there's going to be a kids version. I showed it to Sit Down yesterday, and they liked it, so we are signing a contract today.
Excellent.
And,
congratulations.
Thank you.
So nominated for the Kinderspiel next year?
Yeah, we hope so. That would be great. But I have also worked on an expansion for Magic Maze, and I just finished it, actually. So it's coming for Essen.
Excellent. So I'm getting a copy of that.
Yeah.
And I really like the expansion, actually. It makes the game a lot more into a puzzle game. So you have to solve a common puzzle. But it's definitely for players who have tried the base game, of course, and want something more. So there's more planning involved. It's more when you are allowed to speak, you need to make plans. We need to go there and then there. In Magic Maze, the plans are pretty simple. You just say green needs to go there and orange needs to go there. There's no order of doing things, but there will be in the expansion. You need to agree on an order of doing things. So it's more difficult, but I really like it. It's fun.
Fabulous. Well, Kasper, thank you very much for your time. And although you didn't win, congratulations on an absolutely fantastic game.
Yeah, it's super.
Thank you.
So here we are with the winner of this year's Spiel des Jahres, the designer of Kingdomino, Bruno Gattala. Firstly, congratulations.
Thanks, and I still don't believe it's true.
This is your first one, right?
Yes and no. That means that it's my first real prize, but 10 years ago I got a Sonderpreis. At this time there was not the Kenner Spiel. You had the Spiel and sometimes a Sonderpreis for a more complex game, and I had it for Shadows over Camelot, Schatten über Camelot.
Yeah.
Which coincidentally was the game that really partly started my engagement with this entire hobby.
Okay.
I think last year we spoke briefly, and I mentioned that one of the reasons why I got into this hobby, and I blanked on the name of the game, but it was the first game that my girlfriend gave me back then, Schatten über Camelot. It's still my collection. I still cherish it and still getting played, even though our group has expanded to complicated and advanced games. But this is just amazing. This is, I think, along with Mr. Jack, one of the big games that I think really survived the test of time. I think it's all down to the great design work.
Thank you very much.
So coming to the present,
yes,
with the one that's just won the award.
Yeah.
Good point.
Why Dominoes?
Just because, when you start to design a game, you have 3 starting points. You have the team, the story you want to tell, you have the mechanism, and you have the components. And for this one, I tried to start with the components. Why? Just because Dominoes, everybody worldwide knows Dominoes. I still had one domino in his hand. So the game component is so well known that I think that it could federate people. But I never found really interesting rules for me with Dominoes. So I tried to take the component and to refresh the way you use it in games.
And so, do you think that's been part of the reason of the success of the game? Because Dominoes are known by everybody?
I think so, yes. And also because you are building something with Dominoes, and people like to build something. Even if you don't win, you can be satisfied by what you have done. And that's, in my opinion, a reason of the success of the game.
Well, fabulous. Congratulations. I've just had my picture taken with the award. Now go and get horribly drunk. Bruno Guitarla, thank you very much.
I will do that for sure.
So I'm standing here in front of the Exit booth, more or less. Cosmos Spiel has won Kennerspiel des Jahres, or more accurately, Inge and Markus Brandt have won Kennerspiel des Jahres. Well known to everyone who's been following the Spiel des Jahres. They've been familiar faces here for a lot of games, and now they've succeeded. My first question now is, what's it like to win the Kennerspiel des Jahres?
Also das ist wirklich fantastisch. Man kann das gar nicht beschreiben. Man ist vorher so angespannt und dann platzt die Bombe. Und wenn man dann natürlich als Gewinner dasteht, das ist super.
So it's a fantastic feeling. You're very tense all the time, and all of a sudden, it explodes, and you realize you've won, and it's a great feeling. My next question then: the Exit games are very clever in how they combine information and clues. How did you come up with that? Also das Cleverste an diesen Exit-Spielen, wie ich finde, ist halt die Art und Weise, wie Informationen verteilt werden und wie ihr quasi Hinweise gebt. Wie seid ihr auf die Idee gekommen, das so in Komponenten zu verpacken?
Wie wir auf die Idee gekommen sind, kann ich gar nicht mehr so genau sagen. Also der Ralf, unser Redakteur, hat uns damals gebrieft, dass wir halt ein Spiel für diese Exit-Reihe entwickeln sollen. Und dann haben wir uns über das Lösungssystem Gedanken gemacht. Ralf hatte schon so eine Drehscheibe, Dekodierscheibe ins Spiel gebracht. Irgendwann stand dieses Lösungssystem, was wunderbar funktioniert hat. Und dann haben wir halt angefangen, die Rätsel drumherum zu entwickeln und haben gemerkt, dass es interessant ist, wenn man halt durchaus auch mal mehr Informationen rausgibt, als man eigentlich zum aktuellen Zeitpunkt braucht, dass der Spieler eben noch rausfinden muss, was er überhaupt gerade braucht, und haben dann versucht, die Hinweise, die wir geben, halt nett zu verpacken irgendwie.
So, it's hard to tell how the inspiration originally came about, but it was a joint effort between the Brandts and Ralf Querfurt from Cosmos, coming up with the idea of creating a game around the Exit game line, coming up with the idea of the wheel, the information wheel, and then step by step there was realized if you give players more information than they need at this point, it creates an additional level of friction, excitement, because players need to figure out what they need right now, what they might need later. My next question now is, part of the appeal of these games is definitely the fact that they're one way. You destroy components, similar to legacy games. Was this a challenge you wanted to tackle, or was this something that came naturally? Also eine der Sachen ist halt das Zerstören der Komponenten. Hat so ein bisschen was von Legacy. War das eine eigene Idee oder war das irgendwie eine Vorgabe, oder wie seid ihr darauf gekommen?
Auch das kam als Vorlage, dass wir das ruhig machen sollten. Und dabei hat sich halt herausgestellt, dass sehr viel coolere Rätsel möglich sind. Einfach, wenn wir das Material knicken, falten, reißen, beschreiben. Dadurch sind halt ganz andere Sachen möglich. Deshalb sind wir sehr, sehr glücklich, dass wir das so umsetzen durften.
So again, it was an idea coming from the publishers themselves, but once they realized that once you destroy components, once you rip them apart, write on them, it opens up all new kinds of venues on what to do with the game and the game experience. Anything else? All right. So thank you very, very much for the interview. Congratulations again. It's a well-deserved win, and I'm sure we'll see you next year.
Thank you very much.
So after the storm, the calm, Georgios. We stand here in the palatial food place.
It doesn't sound like calm, though.
Well, I mean, it's relatively calm. It's all quite civilised. There's people in suits stood around a buffet trying desperately not to eat loads, although they really want to.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so give us your rundown. Let's start with the Kenner first. That's the order they did it in. That's the order we'll do it in. How do you feel about the awards, and do you think it's a good decision or a bad one? I think I know your answer.
Well, yeah, I'm disappointed. I think it's a bad decision for two reasons. One, I've long suspected, and this is going to sound very cynical, but I'm a cynical person, that the Kenner Spiel mostly exists to give some sort of legitimacy to the Spiel des Jahres jury among the let's call them hardcore gamers, but at least among the cognoscenti, or let's say the strong hobbyists, not just passers-by, casual gamers, but the people who actually collect a bunch of board games. It's always been a way of saying, look, we are seeing other games as well. We
are gamers too.
We are gamers too, like you. And I think this year the award did not fulfill that obligation. I don't think picking the exit line actually shows that they know games or gamers very well, but it does recognize certain other elements, namely this seems to be like a catch-up to last year's award, where they had two legacy games, Time Stories and Pandemic Legacy, and this time they nominated the small legacy-ish type game Exit.
To what degree then? I was thinking that myself. To what degree do you think this is a sort of retcon on the obvious error of not awarding it to Pandemic Legacy?
I think it's a retcon in the sense that not in the way that people would actually, the jury would in any way admit it. I would even go so far.
Well, if you could get more than a bloody sentence out of them about why they chose the games would be nice. So they certainly won't admit anything.
No, they have an official statement that they refer to, and that's it. I think Martin Klein, we spoke to him earlier, did imply that there are heated discussions throughout the whole year about which games go onto the nominations list, which games get picked, but by the time that people actually pick a winner, everyone's basically settled in their opinion. I think that was. I think to a certain extent it is a reaction, consciously or not, to the blowback they got for ignoring Pandemic Legacy.
Right.
And they ignored Pandemic proper as well when it came out, and ignoring Time Stories, which I think was a good call. But this is part of it. The legacy aspect of Exit had to be recognized. The second point where I think this pick of Kenner Spiel winner sort of misses the mark is I just don't think it's the best game of the three. It is admittedly the most accessible, and accessibility remains an central element of the Spiel des Jahres picks. And I see why, and I think it's a good call, but if that is your main criteria, an important criteria...
For the connoisseurs game, by the way.
Yeah,
I mean, you can have a lack of accessibility in the advanced game category. Right?
Yeah, but even then, the recommendations, Captain Sona was recommended as a Kenner Spiel, and that should have been a nominee. That fits the accessibility. It is basically Battleships Advanced, and it's, in my opinion, it's a far superior game to any of the three nominees. I haven't played Terraforming Mars, but one of the reasons why I didn't is because a lot of it just sort of pushed me away. I will sit down and play it because, having spoken to the designer and having heard a lot of good things about it, I'm willing to give this game a try, but again, I'd be surprised. It doesn't seem like an accessible game, and I wonder why the Spiel des Jahres would nominate a game like that.
Well, I mean, it's clear to me that the best game on the list was Terraforming Mars. And I'm not one of these Terraforming Mars fanboys, but it's definitely a really rigorous, very tight design. So I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed from that angle that, it wasn't the best game, and the best game, a prize this important should be won. a prize this important should be won by the best game, and it wasn't in this case. But also, I hope this doesn't, and I said it on the review, and I'm going to say it again because, it's an important thing. I hope this doesn't usher in an era of crass disposability.
Yeah.
Because we can't afford to live in a world in which stuff is just being thrown away willy-nilly. I mean, especially stuff you haven't used, and I think that's the greatest objection I will always have to Exit, is it's just crassly disposable. And we interviewed them and they said, oh, you get cooler puzzles. Yeah, but you can't do puzzles in a Mad Max fucking hellscape when you're desperately trying to get enough food together to feed your family. So I hope it's not a precedent. That's all I'm saying.
I agree. I think, but for different reasons. I think it's if this does become precedent, it just paints the hobby as a very decadent, a very self-involved and ignorant kind of pursuit that I don't think is true of what board gaming is.
Absolutely.
Or can be.
And the thing is, Legacy. And people will say, well, why is Pandemic Legacy okay and Exit not? Well, I mean, for me, it's a simple matter of scale. 1 hour against 20 hours, 15 hours. I mean, I think you can justify that to some degree, whereas, 1 hour, then it's gone and you haven't used most of it. I think he's egregious. And so, I mean, agree with me or not, and most of the people in the board game world don't agree with me, that's an issue. So, coming on to the Spiel des Jahres,
right.
I think we're both happy that Katala won it.
Yes.
But not necessarily for the game that he won it for, right?
Exactly. I think, like we said when we talked about it about 45 minutes ago, it's a fine game. I think I have nothing to object about as far as Kingdomino is concerned. It's fine, it's accessible, it's quick, it looks nice. The giant version is really, really great fun, even if it's ridiculously overpriced. And Katala deserves an award. I'm a fanboy of a small handful of designers, and Katala is one of them. And I think, yes, he should have found some recognition. He did find, as he said, recognition for Shadows over Camelot, which again is a fantastic game.
But that was before the Kenner Spiel des Jahres existed,
exactly.
Right?
And I think Kingdomino is sort of a tipper to the hat to somebody who's done a lot of great, excellent work, but was never been properly recognized by the Spiel des Jahres jury. It's a shame that it had to come at the price of games like Magic Maze, and I would be even willing to say at the price of El Dorado, because both games I think are more deserving as games to have won the Spiel des Jahres award. My personal favorite, and yours I believe as well, was Magic Maze, which is just mind-blowingly great, and I did not know that this was his first published design, and I'm really looking forward to both the follow-ups and what else he's going to do. But yeah, Kingdomino is a fine game, literally fine, with no malice in that word, but it would have been just as fine if it didn't win.
Yeah, absolutely. In the hall, they have these three sort of boring people that they film playing the games, and they sit around and they, try and be funny in front of the camera, and they usually, it's pretty tragic sort of industry film stuff. But what was really interesting on the Magic Maze film is the audience were laughing.
Yes.
Because even watching that game being played inspires that kind of hilarity.
Exactly.
And to not recognise that, I think, is a great shame.
Yeah.
And so you have this real conflict between a man who clearly deserves it and the game that clearly deserves it.
Quite.
And I personally fall down on the side of award the game, not the person. Right?
I'm going to guess that the jury is banking on Jasper Knapp. Kasper Lapp?
Kasper Lapp, I think. Nice spoonerism there, Georgios.
Wow. I think the jury's banking on Kasper Lapp returning with new games, better games, different games, and some sort of recognition somewhere down the line, which I think, I don't know, I'm not comfortable with that. I think I agree with you. The best game should have won, at least, even if you don't think it's the best game because you have issues with the tenseness and sometimes the frustration that the game can evoke. It is without a doubt the most evocative, the most highly regarded, the most talked about game of those three.
In terms of the experience it generates, and from the people who walk by people playing it, It's the most accessible, and if accessibility is your main criteria, then it's Magic Maze all the way. Absolutely. Anyway, Georgia, so I'm going to go to the buffet now. I'm a bit annoyed there's no free booze, because I could have really made a fool of myself.
Yes. But, unfortunately, I'm not here to record it, so it's fine.
Excellent. So say goodbye to the listeners, Georgie.
Actually, I'm going to hunt down somebody and wrangle a free copy out of them.
Goodbye, people.